This meeting is being recorded.
Well, welcome back to the mission of God to the family. Yesterday, we were talking about the nature of Adam, the nature of Eve, and today I want to talk about how to take that understanding of who we are and be a blessing in kind of the practicals of that. Uh, we talked about uh, Adam as the one who's given the mission to take dominion in the world, Eve as the one who is brought in to provide the necessary help to be able to do that. Um, and one of the things you see in Ephesians and really throughout the Bible, and then just in normal everyday life, that women really um, they need to be loved. Men need to be pouring love on them, and men really need to be respected. Uh, a wife should be really respecting her husband well. And one of the things to know about that is that those are both gifts. We don't love when we see that our wife, as husbands, we don't love when we finally see that our wife is lovable, right? We give the gift of love because she's a gift to us from the Lord, and that's a really important thing. Whether our wife uh, is being lovable or unlovable in the moment with her actions or whatever, we give the gift of love because we're imitating God, right? We're returning God's love to God has loved us. She's made in His image, so we love her. But then also, she is a gift, and we're told to love her, and that it doesn't matter about our emotions in that particular moment. And the same sort of way, uh, wives should be giving their husbands respect as a gift, not thinking when he earns this respect, I'll finally give it to him. We give unearned respect. Wives should give unearned respect to their husbands because he's a gift from God, because he's made in God's image, because he is your husband, and so you give respect. And so wives give unearned respect, right? They respect whether their husband's respectable or disrespectable. The gift of respect is something that we give, and whether a wife is lovable or unlovable in the moment, we give the gift of love, right? So it's something that is part of our it's part of the way God calls us to imitate Jesus, is giving unearned love, giving unearned respect to one another. And it is amazing how transformative a husband's love towards a wife can be, and how transformative a wife's respect towards a husband can be. It's God built built the world in such a way that it's tough to run without fuel. And the fuel that a husband runs on is respect. The fuel that a wife runs on is love. And to be uh, as as active in our intentions to love and respect, um, it makes a really, really big difference. Um, but I want to um, talk about it from the other direction. How can a husband work to be a blessing so that it makes it easier for his wife to show respect? And how can a wife work to be a blessing so that it makes it easier for a husband to show love? Um, and that has to do with mission, right? It's really easy um, in our day and age because of there isn't a lot of social support for healthy marriage like there has been in the past. It's really easy to start um, turning our eyes in on one another, either in rivalry or turning our eyes in on one another in disappointment. I'm not getting what I need from this marriage. And you think, well, I need turn in and focus on the marriage in a focus on turn our eyes on one another and say why aren't you getting me what I need, but that ends up uh, when I do that sort of thing, my wife will often say, that makes you less attractive when you're trying to when you start focusing on that and uh, and it's so easy to do because there isn't um, kind of the social supports, the 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 social help that we used to get. But the the way that a husband can really become a blessing in his marriage is by remembering to focus on the mission in the right sort of way. And a husband is a blessing when he's righteously focused on the family's mission, the mission that God has given him. Uh, and so here's what I mean. So Ephesians 1:22 and 23, it's talking about Jesus, and Jesus put all things or it's talking about the Father putting all things under Jesus's feet, and the Father put all things under his feet and gave him to be head over all things, right? So um, this is the same language that Paul uses later to talk about husbands and wives. So it's the same kind of relationship. Gave him to be head over all things to the church, which is his body, the fullness of him who fills all in all, right? So the Father has sent Jesus on a mission and then is giving him what he needs to be able to accomplish that mission. But Jesus's mission of dominion, of putting all things under his feet, is for the church, right? It's to the church, right? He rules as king over all things to bless his body, right? To make it so that his body can flourish, and his body ends up being the fullness of him who fills all in all. So Jesus's dominion, the mission that he's on from the Father as the restored image of God, as the new Adam, as the restored Adam, his mission of taking dominion ends up turning around to bless his wife. So a husband's dominion should also be in the same sort of way to his body, to his wife, meaning your dominion should bring home blessings that your wife gets to enjoy, right? You that means one, you have to know her, know what blesses her in particular, um, because she's your body. So if a king has a body politic, he should be ruling in such a way that his populace flourishes, right? We know that we say all the time, that ruler should be a servant of the people, right? But that doesn't mean that he's going from house to house and always checking in on each person and that sort of thing. That means that he is doing his job well, such that that body politic can flourish, right? The king that has a body politic should be ruling in such a way that his populace flourishes, but that means he needs to know what his populace needs to flourish. So if you had a king that left for the Crusades in the Middle Ages and left his population um, behind, and he's out taking dominion, say, of the Holy Land, but that's not in such a way that his populace is going to flourish. Um, the so he uh, so if you leave for the Crusades online, when your when your family needs you to be present, it doesn't mean that we're doing a bad thing, right? It could be a good thing, but it doesn't mean it's the right thing. Or you can do a good thing that's not the right thing in a particular moment because it's not the thing that your family needs for you to flourish. And this is the same for pastors, right? Pastors that spend a lot of time online crusading, uh, that often leave their own congregation unprotected. Um, not, and it's not a judgment of anyone in particular. It's just you see that sort of thing enough times, and you start to say, "Oh, that the congregation is ungardened, unprotected." Even when a pastor is has flourishing online ministry, but what we need is uh, as a husband to be on mission for the sake of our families, right? On mission so that our families can flourish, on mission so that our wives can flourish. And in the same sort of way, Ephesians 5:22 and 23 um, uh, says, "Wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, as also Christ is the head of the church, and he is the savior of the body." Right now, wives, submit to your own husbands, right? That means you should be helping him accomplish his mission. That's how you can really be a blessing to him. Now, his mission involves uh, his work, right? Taking dominion. It involves his children. It involves his home. It involves all those things. And you can put flesh on your respect by uh, by uh, keeping your eyes on the mission, right? The mission that you have joined. Uh, it's easy to for a husband and a wife when a husband and a wife turn on each other. It's generally because they have not kept their eyes on the mission that God has given them to accomplish. But what you'll find is as you move towards the mission and are successfully accomplishing the mission, you find yourselves growing closer and closer to one another in ways that you couldn't have expected or that you couldn't have done by trying to move towards one another. Now, this doesn't that but one of the things that you have to remember is to be successful on the mission, you have to be consistently communicating and hearing from one another, hearing what each other sees, understanding, seeking to understand the perspective of one another, and then looking to integrate those two perspectives into a single vision. Right? That is a big part of it. But when the understanding itself becomes the goal, you'll find yourself in a lot more rivalry, and a lot more arguments, and that sort of thing, because understanding each other is not is not a goal in and of itself. Understanding each other is so that you can be on the mission that God has given you guys to do together, and um, because of the dislodgement of existentialism and the kind of current metaphysical landscape, we all feel very dislodged from reality. And so it's easy to think, I just need to be understood. I simply need to be understood. But and we do need to be understood, but there's a purpose to the understanding that is embedded within the image of God that we are created in. And when the understanding becomes in and of itself the goal, then uh, we are forgetting that the understanding has a purpose that God has given us to be on mission. Right? We're out to get hold of the world, to transform it, to raise up children that love the Lord, that have a vision for dominion of the world. Right? Those sorts of things. When we are successful in those missions, together, because we understand each other, because we have the same vision, and because we enjoy working on those things together, there's a closeness that we find that that is is isn't gotten to in any other way. And this is why, like Proverbs 12:4 says, a virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that makes ashamed is rottenness in his bones. Right? So um, the same way a husband that goes off on the crusades to seek glory, but not the kind of glory that you bring home to your body, not the kind of glory, not the kind of dominion that you bring home to your family. It's not dominion to your family. When you same sort of way, a woman that loses her virtue ceases to be a crown to her husband. A woman that is no longer on mission and working for her family the same way that a husband should be. Um, it becomes rottenness in her husband's bones, right? You don't want to do that. You want to be on mission together. And what you find is that glory ends up flowing in, and joy and enjoyment ends up flowing in a sort of way that you can't get to in any other way than understanding one another, being on the same page, having the same vision, working towards the same mission together. So that's a really important distinction that leads to a lot of joy.